Today, telling you exactly what the newspapers are saying. You can start engaging us on our socials at EBN TV. That is on Facebook at TV_EBN. That is on Instagram, and I'll be sampling some of your feedback as we continue with the program. Do tell me where you're watching us from and where you're waking up from. Now let's take a look on what's making headlines this particular morning. In Naivasha, Member of Parliament Jenny Kihara was on Thursday afternoon arrested at her home in Nakuru County. The dramatic incident live streamed on her Facebook account. Dozens of officers believed to be from the Director of Criminal Investigation, that is the DCI, raided her Maraigushu home in Naivasha. Now Kihara is in the live footage could be seen being escorted to the nearby USVs while flanked by her bodyguards. She was ushered into one of the vehicles which was trailed by several others and driven to the Naivasha police station where she recorded statements in the police station.
Mimi sijaingia police station maisha yangu yote, sijaandikwa kwa hiyo kitabu. Na mimi si pastor. Ile nasafanyanga ni siasa. So wacheni twende tukasikie mbele.
So what do you tell your Naivasha people?
Well, to be firm. Na tuombe. Na tuseme ni one term.
One term.
Kwa sababu wamesema iko summons walikuwa wametumia mheshimiwa Jane. So hawajasema ni kwa makosa gani. So that's why tunataka kwenda mpaka huko headquarters ndio tujue kama ni makosa gani mheshimiwa Jane amefanya. Lakini we all know that hii ni political intimidation na persecution ambayo inafanywa na President William Ruto. And we are ready and willing. Sisi wote we have always been ready. Kila siku mimi naambia watu yangu ukitoka nyumbani vaa jacket mzito kwa sababu William Ruto hana njia nyingine ya kusimamisha sisi. Njia yake ni kutumia askari, kutumia magari yetu ya polisi na kusumbua sisi. But we are ready and we are willing and we will take him head on kwa sababu he is running down this country and we shall not keep quiet. He wants to intimidate us, to persecute us so that we can submit. Lakini hiyo haitafanyika na haitawezekana. Sasa wamesumbua mheshimiwa Mkonji, sasa huyu ni mheshimiwa Jane wanasumbua. Nasikia mimi unajua kila siku ninakimbizwa. So you can actually see magari hapa yametumwa magari kama milioni moja. It was as easy as just summoning because we had actually responded to the summon. Wakili wetu walikuwa wamerespond kwa summon na akasema ile siku wanatuhitaji kotini tutakuwa kotini. So even now that will be our position. It is not the work of a member of parliament to investigate. It is not the work of a senator to investigate because we all know we are law-abiding citizens. Na siku ile tunahitajika kufuata sheria, kila siku tunafuata.
Right, moving on, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, that is the IEBC, will be forced to reduce its budget for both the by-elections and the general elections in 2027. This is according to National Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Badi, who lamented that elections in the country are too costly, insisting there is a need for efficient use of public funds. Now speaking when he appeared before the Senate Devolution Committee, Badi said that the IEBC should not be buying some election materials every election cycle, urging the Commission to reuse some materials like the ballot boxes.
We will have enough funds in 2027 to have election. We have no choice. We must have elections in 2027. And even the by-elections. So we have to look for realign our budgets. There is provision of money. I know IBC is complaining, but we're also telling IBC they must be efficient. The cost of election in this country is too high. So they must be efficient. There are things that we did this with examination. We got a list from the ministry initially, from Kenya National Examination Council, honorable members, to approve for national examination. And the Kenyans, so people are making noise, we have not provided money. We were doing a lot of work on the background. And we rejected that list. It was over 6 billion for items. Later, that has since been revised to below 4 billion. We have almost like saved 50%. Just by asking tough questions around administration of examination. There are things that we bought, surveillance camera last year. Then again we are asked to buy surveillance. We are asked, but we had surveillance cameras last year in the last examination. So even the IBC, we are going to ask IBC questions. There are things that you buy and you don't dispose immediately. Why do you buy them in every election cycle? Election cycle you want new things. Even ballot boxes. These things, even though they looked, who is fighting with them? Why must they be bought every election? So a lot of things a lot of savings can be realized, and we will realize it, and we will run our elections in 2027 with the time required, and I don't think there will be any hit.
Right, now let's talk matters politics. And President William Ruto has challenged his competitors to outline their alternative agenda for job creation. Now, the president said inciting the youth to cause chaos and destroy property cannot be the alternative to job creation. He said that a solid plan, or rather he has a solid plan that is already generating hundreds of thousands of jobs for young people, contrary to his rivals who he said have no plan.
Ile siasa tumesema hatutaki Kenya na Nairobi ni siasa ya ukabila. Sisi tunataka tuungane jameni. Mungu ametuunda sisi wote kutoka jamii zote, na mimi kama kiongozi wa taifa hii nitahakikisha hakuna Mkenya anafungiwa nje. Hakuna jamii inawachwa nyuma. Hakuna sehemu ya Kenya inawachwa nyuma. Sisi wote ni ndugu moja, wa taifa moja, na tutashirikiana pamoja ndio tuweze kujenga Kenya kwa pamoja. Na kuna vijana mimi napanga kwa climate works. Kuna vijana mimi napanga ajira kwa affordable housing. Kuna vijana mimi napanga kwa ajira kwa digital jobs. Kuna vijana mimi nawasaidia kwenda kufanya kazi ng'ambo. Mimi nawauliza, tafadhali tusikubali viongozi ambao hawana msimamo, viongozi hawana mpango, viongozi ambao hawana sera watuharibie Kenya yetu kwa kupanga mambo ya fujo. Mimi nawaomba kwa unyenyekevu, wale ambao wanasema ya kwamba vijana waende wafanye fujo, wao wenyewe walete watoto wao waende wafanye fujo. Kweli ama si kweli? Mumeona watoto wa hawa jamaa wako ndani ya hii fujo? Mimi nataka niwaeleze, musikubali hawa watu who have no plan, they have no agenda. Hawajui tutafanya namna gani tuzalishe chakula. Hawajui tutafanya namna gani vijana wapate ajira. Hawajui tutafanya namna gani tuwe na matibabu. Lakini wanataka kutumia vijana wa Kenya kuleta furugu. Kuna watu wengine wanataka kutuweka kwa siasa mfululizo. Ati siasa ya chuki, siasa ya kisirani, siasa ya ukabila, siasa ya fujo, siasa ya vita, ya kuharibu mali ya wananchi. Mimi nataka niwaambie hawa viongozi, we have no time for violence. We have no time for chaos. We have no time for ethnicity. We want to build our country. Anybody who has a plan for Kenya should tell these young people what plan they have for them to have jobs. I have a plan. Let them come with theirs.
Now, church leaders and human rights activists have intensified calls for justice following the fatal shooting of youth during the Gen Z-led Sabasaba protests across the country. Speaking during a burial service at the PCA Church, Gatundu North, for Ian Joroge, a final year student allegedly shot by police during a protest in Thika, religious leaders and human rights campaigners condemned the extrajudicial killings. They demanded the arrest and prosecution of officers involved in the shooting, arguing that the victims were peacefully protesting before they were infiltrated by criminal groups.
That there is the above of all the above. This government sought their votes. The greatest platform was used is the church. It is from the same platform we are crying for our young ones. It's the same platform we are crying for our young men and ladies. And we are praying to God that this will come to an end.
We can have peace in our country. But tunaomba mumchukulie yeye alikuwa ni shujaa, and that is why we are here today. The reason we have the flag is we want to tell you all Kenyans stand with you, and all Kenyans identify Ian as a modern day Mau Mau. Kifo chake msichukulie kwamba kilikuwa ni bila sababu, but his death and his blood will water the tree of democracy in this country.
He has helped me so much, and he has been by my side, in my studies, in my relationships, in my friendship. Ian has been with me, and I didn't believe that at some point he would leave without even saying goodbye. So in his memory, I will read.
Now, a woman and her child died while 10 others sustained serious injuries in an accident at the Ngata Black Spot on the busy Nakuru-Eldoret highway. The Thursday morning crash involved a 14-seater matatu ferrying passengers from Rongai town and a trailer heading to Nairobi from Eldoret. Rongai Police Commander Cecilia Kemboi confirmed the accident and revealed that the deceased were a mother and her child. Police also disclosed that the woman who died had been escorting a child to school in Nakuru City where the accident occurred. Preliminary police investigations established that the driver of the matatu had stopped to drop passengers when the trailer whose driver was allegedly speeding crashed into the stationary vehicle.
Ni masikitiko makubwa sana kwa sababu ajali imefanyika saa 11. Kweli. Ikielekea saa 12. Kweli kabisa. How many hours inachukua our government of Nakuru County kukuja kutusaidia kuinua hiyo trailer tuweze kutoa yule mama ambaye alikuwa amefinyiwa pale ndani. Huyo mama hana anything. Mimi mwenyewe personally nimembeba, hana anything. Wenye kutengeneza hii barabara, mimi niko na swali kwenu. Hii barabara mlianza kutengeneza lini? How long is it going to take for you to finish this road? Ama mnataka maafa iendelee kufanyika ndio muelewe ya kuwa tuko na uchungu.
Kutoka hapo Ngata Gate all the way mpaka Ngata Bridge hakuna stage. Hata saa zingine na tukiangalia hii area iko na stages mingi sana. So saa zingine inakuwa vigumu hata kulaumu driver.
This road for the longest time, every time you use a matatu going to town, unakaza roho ukiwa ndani ya gari because they park by the side of the road. Na hata park hivi unaangalia nyuma, you see a whole collage of trailers coming down. Unajiuliza hawa watu wanatuona kweli? You know, such situations ndo zinatuweka in the position that we are in.
Sijui tutaendelea kuokota mwili ya watu kwa hii barabara kwa muda gani. It is very unfortunate that tuko na serikali ambayo by all designs wamekataa kusikiza kwamba hii barabara ni mbaya sana. Sijui kama wanangoja mtoto wa waziri akufe kwa hii barabara ndio waone ndio iko baya, ama wanangoja nani, ama wanangoja mili ifike ngapi?
From 7 in the morning until 12, that's the time we managed to the trailer that was in front with that matatu. That's the time it was we called for the cart, the excavator, which came and the other vehicles and pulled the trailer up, and then we were able to pull the body from beneath.
Right, quite an unfortunate story right there. Moving on, Kiaru Member of Parliament, Ndindi Nyoro, has strongly criticized the recent sharp increase in fuel prices, terming the government's explanation as misleading and incomplete. Speaking on the matter, Nyoro questioned the justification given by the Ministry of Energy, which attributed the hike of global oil prices, despite data showing that the highest global oil prices were recorded last year, not this year. In the latest review, EPRA revealed that the prices of super petrol, diesel and kerosene increased by 8.99 Kenya shillings, 8.67 Kenya shillings and 9.65 Kenya shillings per litre respectively. As such, super petrol will retail for 186.31 Kenya shillings, diesel will retail at 171.58 Kenya shillings and kerosene will retail at 156.58 Kenya shillings in Nairobi.
If you go to Ethiopia, the current price of liter of petrol is maybe around 122 Ethiopian birr, which is also below 125 Kenya shillings. If you go to a place like Rwanda prices are also below 170 per liter of petrol. So the basic issue here is that the fuel prices in Kenya have been high, not because of global issues, but because of exorbitant levies and taxes. And of note is that the government actually introduced a levy of 7 shillings last year. And that is why, even when global oil prices went down, Kenya never noted, because that is the period when the government then inserted the 7 shillings as part of the fuel levy. Why is this money not being treated or included as part of the national debt? Why the urgency of hiding this loan in a separate book from the book that is known by our leaders and from the book of loans and debt and obligations that is known by Kenyans? What are you hiding? The other thing, is this debt sovereign guaranteed? Is it guaranteed by the sovereign called Kenya? The last thing that I want to bring about, and the reason why I call this a scandal, Kenyans are borrowing now, or are made to borrow, 175 billion Kenya shillings. But after 7 years, Kenyans will be paying an extra 100 billion to the banks on top of the 175 billion. What is the urgency for? And in their responses, I saw they are trying to justify construction of roads. Construction of roads in Kenya is not an invention that has been done yesterday. All the regimes have been building tarmac roads. And no Kenyan has a problem when it comes to development, and especially the building of tarmac roads. The problem is that there has never been any other time that Kenyans are borrowing illegally and coming to Kenyans to explain using construction of roads. We have always had roads, but we have never been in an abyss where we are borrowing illegally for the same purpose.
Now, the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagwa's DCP party has announced it will field aspirants in the all pending 22 by-elections. Deputy Party Leader Cleophas Malala, in a press conference at the party headquarters, however, said the party will consult its coalition partners in the United Opposition Alliance, going by the shifting political dynamics. DCP has further announced former ODM candidate in the 2022 Banisa parliamentary by-election, Aden Mohamed, and as its candidate in the upcoming by-elections, while lawyer Edgar Busiega will be flying the party's color in Malava constituency.
The people of Malava, as I join this new party, I'll hit the ground and I seek for their support.
As you've heard from the deputy party leader, my name is Adan Mohamed. The name I'm known is Kiongozi, Jina Mtani. I'm glad to be member of DCP. After listening to the ground, you know, we are all have the values of listening to DCP. After listening to the ground and the supporters who supported me in 2022 on ODM, they told me go to DCP and run for this by-election on DCP. And I want to assure DCP and all the members that Banisa constituency will be the first constituency which will be delivered on this new party called DCP. And as you've heard in the press and you've seen that the late vied on UDM, and after his demise, the people sat and after a lot of discussions, the community said the vibrant young person who vied on ODM should be taking up the seat. But after seeing that I joined the DCP, they all rushed to the State House. They've killed the party, which the senator of Mandera is saying of the party of the North. They killed that party, and now they've run to UDA. And I'm telling the supporters of UDM that that candidate is a project. I'm the candidate of the people, and this is the candidate to watch in this by-election.
And for your information, the late MP for Banisa on UDM garnered 10,200 votes. Our current candidates, came second on ODM with 9,886 votes. So he's the most popular candidate who is alive in Banisa.
Thank you so much.
Now, the Interior CS Kipchumba Murkomen has issued a stern warning to influential individuals allegedly fueling insecurity in the Kerio Valley by smuggling firearms and ammunition. Speaking in Kapenguria during the 16th edition of Jukwaa la Usalama, the CS said suspects exploit porous international and local borders to sneak in weapons which have escalated violence in the region. Murkomen vowed no one will be spared regardless of their social status as investigations intensify.
The biggest challenge in our border from all these from here in Kwanza all the way to Lamu is that it's very porous border. We have generally very porous borders. Even the border here in Konyao, not properly manned, and there are many other, small routes that are accessed by criminals coming to this part of the world. We still have a challenge of proliferation of small arms, guns, bullets that are, sold illegally around our border with Uganda. And the police have mapped out persons who are engaged in this trade. And I just need to warn them, because many of them are wearing suits and own vehicles. We know them now. We have their numbers. They are being monitored. They are due to be arrested. And I just want to warn them that if they find themselves in crossfire, we don't want them to come crying that, the police should have done this or that. We know those criminals who are in this area, and I want to tell them they need to behave. And mtu asijifanye mclever ati we ni kiongozi, ama opinion leader, or it's someone who pretending here to think that they can wear a suit and they're carrying guns and bullets to go and sell to young people to cause chaos. Just remember the famous quote that if you rattle a snake, you must be ready to be bitten by it. And the consequences will be extremely dire. Extremely dire. And we are not laughing about this. I want to tell the people of North Rift, we are having targeted, the National Police Service and all our security agencies are going to have targeted, well-surveilled, intelligence-covered operations. And we will pick people from their villages and their comfort of their shops, of their homes, and we'll take them through a justice process. So be very careful. And I'm not talking to Pokots only. This message goes to Marakwet here, because we know it's a collusion across these two counties.
Now, Governor Mutula Kilonzo Jr. for Makueni County has said that the opposition will continue to criticize President William Ruto's government until it listens to the cries of Kenyans. Mutula Jr. stated that the opposition will not give Ruto's government room to violate human rights. President William Ruto's remarks on the shoot the leg continues to elicit fury among leaders and Kenyans.
Which country shoots people? Cattle rustlers in Pokot are living like kings. Nobody is shooting at them. Yet unasema huyo kijana piga huo risasi, peleka huyo jela, huo. Ai wacha. We can't live like that. Na hatuwezi kubali. No. Na wasikie. It's not possible. No, it's not possible. Yes. Wataimbiwa one time mpaka wasikie. I'm telling you. Parents can't live in fear. We can't bury young people left, right and center. Na wale wa Makueni wawili, mmoja wa Mtito Wandei is an orphan, akukua shamba ya kumzika. The uncle akasema huyo pelekeni cemetery.
Right now, let's talk matters business. And the Principal Secretary for the State Department for MSME Development, Susan Mageni, has urged fintechs in Kenya to cover the $20 billion USD financing gap for the MSMEs in Kenya, a move that would fast-track the economic development of the nation. The Principal Secretary asked the sector to consider investing beyond personal credit and offer value chain, tailored working capital and trade financing solutions. Honorable Susan Mageni was speaking during the FinTech Trade Mission from London to Nairobi, organized by Africa Insights Consulting at the KPMG East Africa offices in Nairobi. The event brought together the local fintech and MSME sectors together with 13 select global fintechs from London, United Kingdom, to share best practices and areas of collaboration under the theme navigating the fintech regulatory landscape.
A population that is ready, when it comes to embracing new ideas. Our Kenyan population is super. And so when you have the tech firm, especially those coming from other regions of Africa coming here, One of the amazing things is that they can come here with a new idea. But you see, we have very high believability on the new initiative, and this is what sets us apart from the rest. But again, if you look at what are our competitiveness as a country, technology is becoming big. It has actually overtaken our traditional, for example, cash crops that we used to trade there. And now we're doing big on technology, and therefore, when it comes to now seeing how do we regulate, again, we sometimes we become the pacesetters in this, seeing if it's going to work here in Kenya, then it can also be replicated in other parts of the continent and also parts of the world.
All right, it is exactly 32 minutes past the top of the hour. That will take a short breather here on the program. We'll be back in just a bit. All right, welcome back. My name is Martin Mashana, just in case you're joining us, and let's take a look at what's making headlines on the dailies today. And this particular morning, I'm having the Standard newspaper, the Daily Nation newspaper, and the Star newspaper, dated the July 18th of 2025. Now let's take a look at what's making headlines in the Standard newspaper. Top story on the Standard newspaper says, ticking time bomb. Right, there is a picture there of Wilson Airport and structures there, buildings, apartments. Let's take a look on what's making headlines in this particular story. And in the skies above Nairobi's Wilson Airport, pilots are risking their lives and those of their passengers every single day. What was once routine takeoff and landing is now a high-stakes gamble through gauntlet of rogue high-rises, many built illegally in defiance of flight safety laws. At the heart of this looming disaster is a powerful northern Kenya politician accused of twisting regulators into green-lighting unauthorized skyscrapers along critical approach paths. Aircrafts are now forced into steep last-minute drops to clear obstacle on wrong gust of wind, and it could end in flames. Let's take a look at that particular story on page 4 and 5 of the Standard newspaper. And it continues to say, air safety experts now warn, if left unchecked, Nairobi's vertical ambitions could deliver Kenya's busiest domestic airport into a catastrophe. Pilots describe nerve-wracking approaches to Wilson Runway 32, the southern eastern and northern western strip that has become notorious for new obstacles. Now, from the Airtel building side of Mombasa Road, pilots face a gauged skyline to pale often unmarked structures. They must stay higher than ideal, complicating a safe descent. Moving on, continues to say, another pilot put in bluntly said, we are, and I quote, we are being forced to maneuver around new buildings that couldn't be there. It's not a matter of time before someone makes a mistake. Of course, it is a such worrying situation right there. Moving on to matters of education now in the Standard newspaper, grade 10 crisis as half of school miss learners. Now, out of 9,000 secondary schools to choose from, only 4,250 was elected, a situation officials tagged as an emergency. Of course, that particular story can get it on page 6 of the Standard newspaper. Moving on, Mugonyi put to task over the live TV order. Now, MPs wondered where he got the power to switch off stations and the repercussions. Let's take a look at that particular story on page 11 of the Standard newspaper. Continues to say, the Parliamentary Committee has faulted the Communications Authority for switching off live broadcast during the June 25th protest, saying it could have serious ramifications in addition to leading the country into anarchy. Public Investment Committee on Social Services, Administration and Agriculture Vice Chairperson, Saboti Member of Parliament, that is Caleb Amisi, led the members in question, saying that the CA on who gives the power to switch media off, and the point at which they described the move should be taken now. Amisi said that switching off live stream could cause further speculation, tension and anarchy in the country, adding that such a scenario can make problems in the election situation. However, it continues to say the committee demands an explanation following the June 25th protest, which saw the live streaming of events switched off as Kenyans demonstrated, also guaranteed by the Constitution to commemorate their compatriots who died last year in similar protest. Now, it continues to say the CA Director General David Magonyi had appeared before the committee to respond to the queries raised by the Auditor General's report for the financial year of 2020-2021 to 2023-2024. Mr. Magonyi said the articles of Constitution which gave media freedoms, Article 33 and 34, have also limitation to what the media can do, insisting that they abided by the court order which suspended ban on live broadcast. Right, that's what's making headlines in the Standard newspaper, and you can actually get that particular story on page 11 in Matters live broadcasting of the protest of the June 25th protest. And you remember that the Communications Authority issued a ban to the TV stations and radio stations which will be broadcasting live during the Gen Z-led demonstrations, which was on June 25th of 2025. Of course, later on, the court lifted the order pending hearing later on. Moving on to the Star newspaper dated today, the 18th of July 2025. Top story on the Star says litmus test for Ruto and Raila as key allies defect. And there is a picture there of William Ruto together with ODM party leader, that is Raila Odinga. There is a picture there also of Babu Owino from ODM, Richard Onyonka from ODM, Mohammed Ali from UDA party, and Boni Khalwale from the UDA party, Caleb Amisi of the UDA party as well, and Seki Ole Kanar, from the UDA party, says beyond turmoil in Mount Kenya, grip of tradition political bases now doubtful. Let's take a look at that particular story on page 4 and 5 of the Star newspaper. Now, the Star says the trouble is looming for President William Ruto and ODM party leader Raila Odinga as key allies signal plans to break away, either to team up with rivals or to forge independent paths ahead of the 2027 general elections. Now, beyond the turmoil in Mount Kenya region, both leaders' firm grip on their tradition political basis is now doubtful, with former loyalties defecting or distancing themselves from their once influential principles. The likely defamations, or rather defections, threaten to weaken the political dominance for the two most powerful figures in the Kenya's current political landscape, and may reflect deeper shifts in the country's political dynamics. Now, several leaders within both Kenya and the Kenya Kwanza and ODM now fear the burden of incumbency could come at a steep political cost in 2027. Now, the courage by the sum of leaders to openly break away from Raila and Ruto, while still confident of the win, could also signify changing political fortunes for the duo, analysts say. Now, interestingly, some of the realignments are happening in Nairobi, Western Kenya, Coast, and in parts of Masailand regions where Raila and Ruto swept clean in the 2022 polls. Now, Ruto's administration is grappling with unprecedented public unrest fueled by high taxation, allegations of corruption, and growing accusation of impunity. Now, the pressure has prompted ambitious political leaders to quietly distance themselves from the broad-based government. Multiple MPs who rode the UDA and ODM wave in the 2022 now are crafting new political identities. Some hint at contesting as independents or aligning with emerging formations, seeking to avoid being directly associated with the perceived failures of the government. Others are drifting towards the opposition, with Raila influencing suffering, particularly in the Gusii region. Now, in central Kenya, many leaders, including some current governors and senior government officials, are said to be planning to quit as the clock ticks towards 2027. Moses Kuria, you will remember, recently resigned last week as Ruto's advisor, but his political plans remains unclear. Now, I don't know what to make of that. Of course, Babu Owino in the ODM party leader, in the ODM party, and Richard Onyonka also allied to the ODM party, Muhammad Ali in the UDA party, allied to President William Ruto, Boni Khalwale allied to President William Ruto's party, that is the UDA, Caleb Amisi, and of course Seki Ole Kanar, both allied to the President William Ruto's UDA party. Moving on, in matters education, textbook heist, auditor flags 540 million Kenya shillings missing from schools books program. Of course, that's a story, you can get it on page 8 of the Star newspaper. Now, trailblazer and women's rights champion Phoebe Asiyo dies at the age of 93. All right, that's a story on page 7 of the Star newspaper. Now let's take a look on what's making headlines actually in the Daily Nation. And the Daily Nation top story says 6 counties get bulk of 3.7 trillion shillings devolution cash. Now, remittance says inequality. Remittance says that the 6 devolved units accorded, or rather accounted for more than a quarter of the total exchequer allocations, grants, and on-source revenues between 2013, when devolution started, and 2024, reflecting the continued high concentration of resources in a small section of the country. Now, there's a story on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. Let's take a look on what the Daily Nation has to say in regards to that particular matter. And 6 counties have received more than a quarter of the 3.73 trillion that disbursed by the 47 devolved governments since the set of devolution, underlining the high concentration of resources in small sections of the country. Now, remittance says to the 6 countries, rather the 6 counties accounted for 26% of the total exchequer allocations, grants, and own revenues between July 2013 and June 2024, reflecting the wide inequalities across Kenya. Now, the Parliamentary Budget Office county fact sheets list Nairobi, Kiambu, Turkana, Nakuru, Kakamega, and Mombasa counties as big of the beneficiaries, having cumulatively received 973.5 billion Kenya shillings in the last decade. Now, the 47 counties generated 403.4 billion Kenya shillings from their own sources in the period, out of which 213.4 billion came from the 6 counties, according to reports by the Control of Budget and the Commission of Revenue Allocation. Now, the PBO report presents a comprehensive overview of fiscal and economic developments across the 47 counties since the advent of devolution, comparing how differently they have layered. Nairobi has received 305.7 billion, the highest amount of any country since devolution started, comprising revenue of exchequer, that is 171.3 billion Kenya shillings, and 116.7 billion on collections. Of course, that's matters devolution scorecard. Now let's take a look on what's making headlines in matters politics. And arrest mountain protesters, plotters say Ruto allied Mount Kenya MPs. Now, a section of Mount Kenya Member of Parliament allied to the Kenya Kwanza administration have demanded thorough investigations into the recent chaos that has led to destruction of property and loss of lives in the region. Of course, there is a picture there of National Assembly Majority Leader, that is Kimani Ichung'wah. Let's take a look on that particular story on page 7 of this Daily Nation. Now, more than 30 lawmakers who met at the El Shapai Resort in Naivasha yesterday under the Mount Kenya Parliamentary Caucus want those responsible arrested and prosecuted. Now, they say that the MPs spoke days after the chaos rocked the country, first during the June 25th protest and on July 7th as the country marked the Saba Saba Day celebrations. Now, they claim that the violence and mayhem that have been witnessed in parts of the region recently were instigated by reckless and selfish politics. Of course, that's what the lawmakers allied to the Kenya Kwanza, coalition for the state, or rather the head of state, that is William Ruto have to say in matters, protests that erupted in the June 25th of 2025, of course, the July 7th of 2025, even as the Gen Z-led, celebrated the Saba Saba Day celebrations. Now let's take a look on matters education. Now Ruku says TSC halt executions of report on new hardship areas. Now the government has temporarily stopped the implementation of the review of hardship areas following criticism from teachers, civil servants, and political leaders. Of course, there's a story on page 16 of the Daily Nation. Now, reign of fear as Shabab Milazia raid village and kill KDF soldiers. That's a story on page 10 of the Daily Nation. Also, breakthrough malaria during offers hope for Kenya tiniest patients. Of course, that's also a story matters held in the Daily Nation on page 3 of the Daily Nation, dated today, the 18th of July, 2025. It is exactly 54 minutes past the top of the hour and 6 minutes to the top of the hour. At that note, we take a short commercial break here on the program, but we'll be back in just a bit.